Oh, hello. It says we're going live. I have no idea whether this is the right way around. Hang on a second. No, I still can't work it out. Can't work out whether this camera is. Oh, no. Well, I have to say that we've tried every which way. There's evidently a ghost in the machine somewhere. But please bear with me whilst I get my feet under the table. Let's just do that. That works. Ish. Sort of. Welcome to the body of the Kirk. If you are in the pews, be thankful. And if you're not, well, you better get in there because it's fairly busy. I've just seen Cuban Pete's comment, so I'm going to get to that in a second, Cuban Pete, because I'm with you. Welcome to live number 153. Hibiscus is in hand, so to speak, although the bishop is not around. Not quite sure why. There is a bishop from the Church of England that has been, outed because he's a bit of a kiddie fiddler. So we don't know the name of that. Oh, bloody hell, Amalia's in the body of the Kirk already. Whew. Somebody remind her. Evening, Amalia, you're wrong. So this bishop seemingly has been messing with the kids. And they're not releasing his name. It is a he, so I'm told. So tonight on the on Live 153, we're going to talk. Well, it's kind of not the only story in town, but it's a big story. And normally, Reform or Nige or Rupert. I mean, can you imagine living on a council estate being called Nige or Rupert? Of course. So it's kind of the only story in town, but there are other stories that are, they're rather good. So we'll be talking about that, the adrenaline's kicking in, or the cortisol. There goes my cough. Firstly, welcome to the body of the Kirk. Please, you're allowed Battenberg and altar wine. That's it. Nothing more, because we could end up getting arrested. Thank you to all the Battenbergers for their support, including Stuart for his Jaeger bomb and donations to the church swear box. It allows me to get my Tourette's out and swing it all about and then put it back in the cupboard until the next live. Because I do turn into a bit of a potty mouth, as you've already recognised. I'm trying to think and read and work out what I'm doing on 6 different levels here. Right, we'll leave that there. So this evening, in the sermon, in the body of the Kirk, we're going to talk reform. Do you think they should work this out, as in UFC work this out? Get the fingerless gloves on, man, and they're like gloves, hand gloves, and slug it out. I mean, we could fill Wembley Arena, I'm sure. We are going to talk about Charles the Weak. And thank you to Cuban Pete, who says, not my king anymore. And I think, Cuban, you're probably giving your opinion, and you're one of the many, not the few. We will talk about that. We're going to talk about Trump and something called flooding the zone. I've been meaning to talk about it for the last few weeks. Although, if you are a regular to these lives, you will know that I did say a couple of weeks ago, not too sure about what's happening with the reform. Because there's Elon Musk. Elon Musk has said he doesn't think that Nigel's up to the job. And then he says, Rupert Law. Yeah, Rupert Law. And all of a sudden, the wheels have come off. We are going to talk about that in quite some depth. But Trump flooding the zone, we'll get to that, because I don't know whether you've gotten to this place yet, but I did a couple of weeks ago where it's just getting too much. The news. It's just getting too much. So we're going to talk about that, because there is a technical term for it. It's called flooding the zone. And we're going to talk about infidelity. You know, it's in the papers today. Let me just get rid of the shite. In the papers today, we've got headline, I became pregnant as a man and we want more kids. That's obviously the Daily Mirror, a newspaper. If I didn't do these, A, I wouldn't buy it, B, I wouldn't burn it, C, I wouldn't wipe my ass with it. But there's if I can get to it while I'm talking to you, because it just feels like there's so much going on that it is too much. It's not like my mate Anna's in the paper. Ooh. You just cannot keep up with the amount of information that's coming at you from the mainstream media, legacy media, however you want to term it. You just can't keep on it. But it's this situation with Maura Higgins and Danny What's-His-Face, who won I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And I have to look at that bloody Megan. Let's see if it's in the Superstore away. Because I'm going to ask you a question this evening, and we can start it fairly early doors, because one, Glastonbury. I mean, Glastonbury. If I'd bought those tickets for like hundreds, if not thousands of pounds, if you're going glamping, and then suddenly I find out that it's the 1975 headlining Friday. What? Who? And then some old boy that's well, he's ready for his wooden casket. Neil Young. Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's it. I'm not, I mean, Neil Young headlining Glastonbury on a Saturday night. He spat his dummy out a few months ago saying, right, I'm not going to do it. And everybody was like, we don't care. And then they've announced him today as a headline act. And then on the Sunday, Olivia Rodriguez. Who? She's no Dusty Springfield. And I just thought, cheers, Bernie. I just thought, that has to be. I mean, they've got Rod Stewart doing the Legends thing on a Sunday. Do you think I'm sexy? Not a bloody 80-year-old, I don't. Jesus, are they going to wheel him out? Are they going to oil him up before they send him out just to keep him going for 90 minutes? That has to be, without any shadow of a doubt, without easily, I know I won't be contradicted, that has to be the worst, shitest lineup in Glastonbury's history, as far as I'm concerned. They're no bloody Led Zeppelin, are they? I'm surprised they didn't ask, what's his face? That shite band that did that song Clocks. I think it was Clocks. Oh, my hearing's gone, so it might have been something else. So, we'll do Danny and Maura. Is that the right way round? Hang on, let's have a look at that. No, it's not. Shite. Anyway, we'll talk about that, because I want to talk about sort of infidelity. Where's the line for you in infidelity? Is it Danny and Maura kissing? Because not only did the Sun have the exclusive where somebody caught them on video having a proper bit of tonsil hockey, and they caught it on video, but then off they went to party at Nobu in London somewhere, and they ended up sort of up till 6 o'clock in the morning. And the missus has gone, "Oi, you dirty slag, come here." That's Danny, not her. So you've been up all night with some dirty... I mean, you can't even slut shame now, can you? You can't even say, "Oh, look at that." She may as well have a mattress tied to her back. We've all known them. So we're going to talk about infidelity, and I did predict to you, it was either December late or early January. I did say to you, and I think it was December, to be fair, in between Christmas and New Year, did say to you that young Jeffrey Epstein was going to rear his ugly head again. Told you he would reappear. You didn't believe me, did you? just getting into. And obviously, I'm going to send my condolences via the bishop if he ever comes back to the body of the kirk, because I'm not sure what he's been up to, but there's rumours. But the Pope's dead, man. I mean, how many times do I have to tell you? He's cocked it, sniffed it. This parrot is no more. But we'll talk about how they will manage that narrative, how they will manage the story, so that there's no weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth, as they would see in the Bible. See what I did there? So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to ask you a question. Start off with, let's do a few comments before we get in there. Oh, blimey. Fairly lively tonight. 171 watching and 45 likes. Ooh, tough crowd tonight. Yeah, wrongin'. So come on, smash the likes on the way in, not on the way out. Yeah, wrongin'. Phil the Van, he's first. That's not what your wife told me. The old Bovril, evening all, is Rupert Lowe, Elon Musk's agent provocateur. Oh, it's all kicking off, the old Bovril. Stuart, evening, Rev. Hope you're well. Battenberg and Alta wine are ready to go. And last but not least, 1 cup of hibiscus with some of the finest Jaeger bomb. Don't say I'm never nice to you. Give it a blow, said the bishop to the actress. Oh, it adds a certain je ne sais quoi, as the Spanish might say. Napoleon Bonaparte says, good evening, wrong-uns all, and yourself, good reverend. It's been quite a news weekend over here, and that's not a good thing. Hoping you're all well in here. Any bets on what time Amalia will come in? Well, you know, I'm not a betting man. I would have bet that Amalia had forgotten again, but Amalia's one of the first in. Brilliant. Rich, evening all in the pews. Hold on tight, the Rev's got a lot of things to say this evening. It's all kicking off outside the body of the kirk. Indeed. I mean, can you imagine? A Rubat and a Nigel. Now, an officer in certain regiments are called Ruperts. Why? Because they're all posh and knee backbone. So, I'll leave that there. So Rupert versus Nigel. What can I say? Evening, Rich. Welcome to the body of the kirk, and Napoleon blown apart, and Stuart, the Bovril, Phil the Van, and Cuban Pete, who says, not my king anymore. I am going to get to that, Cuban Pete. I have quite a pointed take on it, because I am absolutely disgusted at the monarch. Disgusted. And I'm not going to pull me punches either. Super Ted, good evening, Adrian and the congregation. Oh, Super Ted, welcome to the body of the kirk. See if you can get in the pews. Lionel Leighton, unrehearsed. I'm early for a change. Good evening, all. Not nearly as early as Amalia. Hey up, all. Hey up, Amalia. And let me just... all the usual suspects. I need to scroll a bit. Bloody hell. Didn't realise there was... you've been nattering away whilst I've been nattering away. Stephen Hall, evening, Adrian. Tom Harneys, evening, one and all. Amalia. No, nobody can believe it. King Sausage Fingers, says Stephen Hall. Evening, Rev. Stephen, welcome. Tom, welcome. Amalia, welcome again. And Ray Norton, did Charlie convert to Islam? Seems to be a big talking point at the minute. Well... They reckon some big mufti. Now I can't take that title seriously. I can't, because I've just had a load of mufti in my time. So Allah Karim Humdallah, everyone. Des, what can I say? Not in the bloody St George's Chapel. So there are rumours that a big mufti back in the day said, oh yeah, Charlie's converted to Islam. Has he bollocks? And then he has Islamic prayers in St George's Chapel at Windsor Castle. I mean, there are, watching this live, this channel, that there are very few things that get me apoplectic with rage. I'm being facetious before you start. But I mean, I've never been to the Blue Mosque in Istanbul. It is one of my bucket list to do, because originally the Blue Mosque was Knights Templar. So don't tell me it was Islam, because the Islamics get very upset when you mention the Knight Templars. They get very upset when you mention the Crusades, because Richard the Lionheart Saladin nearly starved that fecker out of Jerusalem. And it was only sort of the last day Richard the Lionheart says, oh, let's give it up, lads. Let's give it up. And Saladin was going to surrender. So for thousands of years, there've been this schism between the Crusaders, the Knights Templar, and Christianity out of Rome, and the Islamists. And Charles the Weak invites them into St. George's Chapel, the patron saint of this country. I watched the videos, I heard it all, I saw it all, and I just thought, I can't even begin to put it into words, because at the very core of me, Methodist Christian, I'm so angry that actually this might kill off the monarchy. Charlie, the well-hung lesbian, he's almost brought about the end of the monarchy. His mother must be spinning in her grave. She knew what she was doing when she was handing it over. She thought that Charlie would make a better fist than this, but Charles the Weak. This is history speaking. This is not some fat ginger lad kicking off. This is history speaking. History looks at Henry VIII, and what do we know about Henry VIII? Well, he turned from Catholicism to Methodism and the Church of England, and he banged a few birds because he wanted to have a son and didn't. Well, he did, but died. So Henry VIII, the wives, and the Church of England. So how will the well-hung lesbian, Charles the Weak, be remembered by history? Arsehole. I mean, to give the king credit, the crown wears heavy. But in these days of how fractious this sceptred isle is, he's supposed to be the focal point that brings us all together, the collective. And now he's talking about the Commonwealth and not this sceptred isle, the Commonwealth. Or our differences make us unique. Oh, look, mate, stop it. You're a weft puppet, and that takes some. So if a bloodline, one of the oldest bloodlines, the Saxe-Coburgs in the world, German. No, they're not English, they're German. Saxe-Coburg. Oh, and there's little Megan going, oh, well, you know, I do like being called Duchess. Should we start calling her Windsor? Because that's her name, because she married into that family. But that family changed its name because of the First World War, and they were scared shitless that the people were going to turn on them. So, Saxe-Coburg. Deed poll, Windsor. So I'm not like with you, Cuban Pete. I really can't find the words, eloquent words, to be able to say that I think King Charles the Weak needs to step aside now. Just give it to Willie, because then we're going to have a King Willie, King William, King Billy. Can you imagine? There are certain parts of this sceptred isle who would love a King Billy. I mean, we can talk about Windsor Castle because Windsor Castle was originally built, part of it was originally built this is all off the top of my head, originally built by William the Conqueror in 1070. And then it was like they put the double glazing on, and then they added a little bit, and then they had the swimming pool dug and built. But it was all in the time of the Crusaders and the Templars. And it was only really finished in 1348 after the Templars had been sort of done in by King Philip of France and the Pope. So Windsor Castle and the dearly beloved St. George's Chapel was all erected during the time of the Crusades, the Crusaders and the Knights Templars. Did anybody have a word with what Charlie was doing? And that utter moron in 10 Downing Street, what the optics would be for most people in this country, the Christians in this country, the Methodists in this country, because the Pope's dead now. They have no idea. They literally don't care how it looks. But I would suggest that Charles, because of his health, he can do it on health grounds, he's been in there nearly a couple of years, just give it up, Your Majesty. Because that was just too much. And then all the rumours start, as Ray Norton said. The king, look, Diana banged like a barn door in a storm. And what she wanted to do was have her wicked way with somebody that was not of the Christian faith, that would make her pregnant so that the future King of England would have a Muslim half-brother. She knew how incendiary that was. And they had to bump her off and kill her off before that ever came to be. And that's why they embalmed her in Paris. Why would they embalm her in Paris? Embalming is the only way of absolutely categorically getting rid of any pregnancy and any evidence of any pregnancy, so they could turn around and say she weren't pregnant. But I've seen the pictures on the jonquil, and I've seen that leopard skin print swimsuit that she was wearing. She was 2 or 3 months pregnant, that woman, and she was taken out by, shall we speculate? So his wife tries to have a half brother or sister, Muslim brother or sister, to the future King of England. Do you realise how incendiary that is? That's why she was murdered. Andrew James says, I've got back from Blackpool where the wife didn't see pineapples on the doors or Battenberg in the rooms. I did dance with a very pretty Scouse girl, with the wife's permission, of course. Scouse girl. Did she nick your wallet? Nikki, Soul Rebel. Sorry, Nikki Watson. Evening, Nikki. Soul Rebel. Evening all. Vix Tex. Welcome. Des Ashton. On time, Amalia. Well done. Let's get to Mark Bryan. Queen and other rock drum covers. Hey, Alan. Great channel. Name's Adrian. 007. Stephen Hall, another kiddie fiddler. I know. Church of England this time. Jesus. So we'll get to the bottom of the... let me just check. That's much better. So the only story in town, apart from that... I mean, I don't know. Phil the Van. Hasn't Charles taken the Shahada yet? Shahida. Des Ashton, the real Annus Horribilis. Don't mention anybody's Annus, because they'll be all at it like a rat up a drain pipe, Des. Dark forces, as Lizzie said. I know, Rich, I know. But there's stuff that I have to tell you tonight that you're going to have to join the dots. But it's worthwhile. Stuart, Battenberg Annus. Well, it's fine if they've eaten Battenberg. So we're told. And there's stuff going on that in Solus, hang on, pegged up the Annis, Cuban Pete. No, that's King Billy. The stuff that's going on just doesn't look, it just looks random, some of it. But if with my help, I can sort of join them for you. Let's start with Reform, shall we? Now, Reform are well ahead in the polls. They're beating Labour and the Tories and every other singular political party in this country. They are out in front. And if there was a general election any time around about now, they would just sweep home. So what would the dark forces, as Rich said around Queen Elizabeth and Diana, what dark forces would be at work? Well, it's not really enough of them. There's only 5. And they're all vying for social media supremacy. And they just have to sit back. The parasite classes, the political classes, just have to sit back and observe. And what do they have to observe? Because politicians are egocentric sociopaths. It's that simple. And the last couple of weeks ago, I just had this feeling that it wasn't all going swimmingly. So I just asked you whether, Reform and Nige were fine. Jackie Glasgow. Nigel is a dark force. He thinks he's won it. And what's the old saying? Many a slip between cup and lip. Jackie Glasgow says party of free speech. Well, apparently not now. So what we reckon has happened is that Rupert Lowe they'll be running polls in the background. They'll be doing focus groups in the background, and they'll be asking the focus groups, what do you think of Rupert Lowe? And what do you think of Nigel? And so they'll know. Jackie Glasgow says, I've gone off Nigel as he goes whichever way the wind blows, shot himself in the foot now. Well, it's a bit like Tuti Ikea. He literally will just go whichever way the wind blows. So I'll say this to you again, and this is an example. What have the puppet masters got on Sir Keir Starmer to make him do what he's doing? What exactly have they got? If anything, might be nothing. But the puppet masters, the real power, those that stay in the shadows and never let themselves be known, what have they got on Sir Keir Starmer that makes him do what he's doing? And there's Nige. I said to you a couple of weeks ago, hello, Nige. Did you really short the NatWest stock when you were having that spat with them? And who else in GB News shorted the NatWest stock? So shorting is betting on the stock going down. So if I was in a fight with a particular company and I knew that I had every chance of getting stuck into the ribs of that particular company, I could bet on that company's shares going down and make money. So when Nige was having a go at Coots, he's now got enough millions. Wonder where that's come from. He's got enough millions to be able to have a Coots bank account legitimately. Who was it that shorted the NatWest shares? Look, I know the answer to the questions that I'm asking. Andrew James, Farage does more flip-flopping than a hippie at Glastonbury. Terry Wookfit, Nige don't like criticism. You can say that again, Terry. Amalia, not happy with Nigel, and now he's been Tommy. So we can have a look at it's the compartmentalization of all the different bits. They're all in working order. They're all there moving around. So we've got Stephen Yaxley Lennon, political prisoner, 140 odd days, solitary confinement. And this on this government, the politicians, the judiciary have a duty of care. So if his mental health is going down, I mean, I don't know whether he's getting any treatment for things that he may have needed treatment for when he went into jail. I shan't go any further than that. But he may have needed some help. So there's a political prisoner inside for what? Contempt of court. Ooh. Solitary confinement for contempt of court. What the hell? Matthew Whedon says they know Keir's secret. So do we all, Matthew, except we can't really speak them here. But I've told you, people in the shadows have got the power. And this seems to be, politically, it seems to be the grift. This is what WEF does. They work out who's going to be the powerful politicians at some point in the future. So they identified Justin Trudeau and Tony Blair and others. And then they get into power and they can manipulate that power because they've got stuff on people. Macron, Blair, Trudeau. There's all stuff in the background. I've told you before. Just Google Charles Lyndon with a Y. Bow Street Magistrates. You'll find out about political processes. Phil Levan, where's Paul Thorpe come from? Probably between his knees. The overall reform is the only chance we have to get change. Just have to hold our noses at the moment. Well, I am going to give you the answer. You know me, agent provocateur, but I've got the answer to all of this with reform. But I'm going to lead you through the story so that you get an absolute grasp and understanding of the context. And then I'm going to give you some evidence. Evidence that cannot be refuted. And evidence that they know about. Both sides. So, reform and Rupert Lowe. Technically, both sides are telling the truth. So, having kind of studied, I'll understate that, of course. Having studied what's been said and being aware of the several personalities involved, even Katie is in amongst all of this. The bullying, I would suggest, is not directly at the hands of Rupert Lowe. But nevertheless, he's in charge of dealing with the matter-ish. The complaints have come from a credible source. We know where they've come from now. And Reform have been dealing with this a number of weeks. Well, 83 days was the last count. The staff of an MP are usually paid by IPSA, IPSA, which is the taxpayer, not the party. So parliamentary procedure is in play here. It's likely that because of a lack of experience, the procedure has not been followed, which is an interesting point to make. The timing of Rupert's comments about young Nige are a little awkward, possibly deliberate or otherwise. It was a foolish thing to do. I'm sure you would agree. As for the commentators sticking their oar in, fanning the flames to suit their own narrative, you should know better and behave better. But they're not for a reason. So it's a pretty sensitive time for Reform, for Rupert, Nigel, party members. Well, technically they're not party members, they're party subscribers. And there's 211,000 of them. So they're way past the Tory party. 312,000 members or subscribers of the Labour Party. And they were going up at kind of December, January. They were going up by 50,000 subscribers a month. So they weren't that far away from overtaking the Labour Party, who at one point were over 500,000 members when Jeremy Corbyn was head of the party. So what's going on at the moment feels like subscribers and party members and supporters of a party that someone mentioned in the that's it, Theo Borrell. Reform is the only chance we have to get change. Just have to hold our noses at the moment, which I've just repeated. But again, a lot of people like the Borrell, and maybe yourself, Terry, you think I've just hoid a whole load of milk over me yucca? It's not jizz either. So the Reform Party is perceived as the only, as the O'Bovril has said, the only... Simon, I've just seen what you've said. You're wrongin'. So everyone is hoping beyond hope that the political classes, the Labour, Tory, Greens, Lib Dems, are all going to foxtrot Oscar and leave us alone and allow us to get on with our lives. Samurai Cop, I haven't seen you in ages. Hello, Samurai Cop. Best wishes from Dublin, and to you, sir. So the people with hope in their hearts, to coin a phrase, will perceive this as their hopes being dashed. Well, they're not. Let me continue. Some people are saying that that this is a bump in the road. Reform, up until this point, have behaved well and taken appropriate action. We've even had 2-tier free gear queer as folk Starmer cross over the aisle in, for want of a better term, in the House to speak with Nige, because obviously they want to have a good relationship with the Donald. So I'm sure, well, I know politics. I've studied it best part of my life. I would hazard a guess that Rupert has behaved with integrity, even if things may have gotten a little heated behind closed doors. The vultures are circling the wagons here. The media are going to milk it dry. And normally, Nige, Reform, they always release something on a Sunday. So there may be something happening tonight that they will release a press release for. So there's no need for anyone to dissolve support for anyone involved in this matter. Or is there? Because Nige released a press release, which I'm going to use for your entertainment. So Nige broke his silence on Rupert Lowe. Remember, I'm going to give you the evidence. It's only going to take me a couple of minutes to do this, and then I'm going to give you the evidence. And then you'll go, no, the bloody wonder. So seemingly, there was a minister who had parked up some shite in Rupert's constituency, as in a boat, and it was explosive. And Rupert went over and went, "Oi, you're wrongin'. You need to get rid of that boat out of my constituency. Toot sweet, mate." And you know, the minister's like, "Oh, don't be silly, Rupert. Don't be silly. I'm a minister." And Rupert's like, "Oh, you can hide away and shite, mate. Get it sorted." So I'm going to read this to you so that you have the context and the understanding, and then I'm going to give you the evidence. So Nigel Farage is quoted as saying in this press release, "If the last general election taught us anything, it is that the public does not like political parties that engage in constant infighting." Correct? The never-ending civil war that came to define the last Conservative government resulted in the loveless, though large, Labour majority that Britain is saddled with today. I'm acutely aware of this, which is why Reform UK has devoted so much time and effort since July to building a unified national party machine. Admittedly, they're still learning. Now, thanks to one of our MPs, Rupert Lowe, unloading a barrage of criticisms against our operations and its main actors, that sense of unity has been dented. The truth is that Mr. Lowe has made some excellent interventions over the past 8 months and helped to stimulate public debate on a range of pressing issues facing the country, which I'm sure you would agree with. What many people may not have realised, however, is that in that time he has also managed to fall out with all of his parliamentary colleagues in one way or another. There's only bloody 5 of them. We did our best to keep a lid on things, but in the end, containment strategies invariably fail. Oh, I say, Nige. One clear example of the type of difficulty that I have in mind occurred in the chamber of the House of Commons, just as Parliament was about to enter the Christmas recess. Told you. It was the last parliamentary debate of the year. Mr. Lowe, who represents Great Yarmouth, asked Mike Kane, the Transport Minister, a question about the MV Ruby, a damaged cargo ship which had docked in his constituency whilst carrying hundreds of tons of the potentially explosive fertiliser ammonium nitrate. So the argument was over a load of shite. Mr. Lowe was unhappy with the answer that he received from Mr. Kane, and at the end of the debate, he crossed the floor to make his feelings known. A confrontation ensued. Heated language was heard. The minister's shoulder was pushed. Oh, you are awful, but I like you. In the end, the Sergeant-at-Arms had to step in to calm things down between the two parliamentarians. Commenting on Mr. Lowe's conduct later, Mr. Kane told GB News, oh yes, that the anger displayed towards me clearly showed a man not in charge of his own faculties. Really? Nobody in Reform UK said anything publicly about what had happened. Instead, we just baggered on. Yet, in fact, the fact is that, sadly, there have been too many similar outbursts from Mr. Lowe, often involving the use of inappropriate language, caring, understanding 90s type, to the despair of our Chief Whip, Lee Anderson. There's only 5 of them. How many officers do they hold each? I have been surprised and saddened at this behaviour, certainly. I have never seen anything like it to quote it directly, certainly, I never saw anything like it in the European Parliament. In 2019, when I was the leader of the Brexit Party, Mr. Lowe was an MEP colleague. And I quote, last week, the chairman of Reform UK, Zia Youssef, who's called Mohammed, full name, so they're shortening his name. Make it sexy and cool. Just call him Mohammed. Showed me 2 letters sent by female members of staff to our party HQ. Each letter contained an accusation of workplace bullying involving Mr. Lowe. One of the incidents in question is alleged to have taken place within the parliamentary estate. As a responsible political party, Reform UK has a duty of care to every single member of staff, whether they are employed by us directly or indirectly. With that in mind, I believe that our chairman was entirely right for Reform to appoint a KC, King's Counsel, to conduct an independent inquiry. Well, if it's anything like the ITV inquiry, that will happen. Absolutely bugger all will happen. It is inconceivable that we could simply ignore such allegations. Okay, I'll take that. Whether this turn of events prompted Mr. Lowe to use a newspaper interview this week to launch a political attack against me, I cannot say. All I do know is that Mr. Youssef, that's Mohammed, was presented with complaints which he could not simply disregard. That is not the way of Reform UK. I promise you, when I tell you what's going on. But let's pretend for a minute that Mr. Mohammed had turned a blind eye to what the letters allege. Can anybody imagine what sort of a storm Reform UK would be facing now if it transpired that this unfortunate situation had been dealt with by trying to play it down, or worse, sweep it under the carpet? What? There's no sweeping it under the carpet or any incident in the Houses of Parliament, the Palace of Westminster. Oh dear Nige, you must be off your trolley. You must be, because everything is swept under the carpet. Nobody wants to get found out, especially if they've been shorting the NatWest shares. Nearly swore. So tell me, Nigel, Who shorted the NatWest shares, bonny lad? I'll leave it at that. I am certain that to have done nothing would have been considerably worse for everybody concerned. The two women who claim that they are victims of workplace bullying, Mr. Lowe, Mr. Mohammed, in his capacity as party chairman, and the reputation of Reform UK. Trust is the cornerstone of politics after all. Is he talking about, like, politics? Like the political classes, the parasitic classes? And he says, and I quote, trust is the cornerstone of politics after all. Do you trust any of these lying toe rags? Do you trust them at all? To use the words of a great Chinese philosopher, I wouldn't pee on them if they were on fire. For now, we must wait and see what findings the parliamentary authorities reach. We must also wait to hear what the King's Council, who has been tasked with looking into these matters, has to say. Until we know more, I must return to the crucial job of getting 1,500 vetted Reform UK candidates out into the field for the local and mayoral elections on 1st of May. It is essential that they stand for public office with a united team foursquare behind them. I think it's quite unfortunate that you talk about politicians getting behind other politicians. Back to that WhatsApp group in Portcullis House. If Britain is to thrive, we must rid the country of this socialist government. What, the Marxist government, young knight? That is why I believe that Reform UK matters more now than it ever has done before. That is why it is so important that our party and every single one of its representatives behaves responsibly at all times. Nothing less will do. End of Nigel Farage's public statement. So, what would I have to refute all this BS that's going on? If you are on X, formerly Twitter, go to @Adrian Allen and just scroll through my timeline, scroll through my feed until you get to a photograph of two very well-known politicians. So let me offer this to you. Young Rupert, 83 days it took Mohammed to deal with this alleged push or pull, or, well, there's loads of pulling going on in the Palace of Westminster. I've told you, it's that bloody WhatsApp group at Portcullis House. But there's loads going on, and it's only when a picture Terry, you're definitely a wrong one. So there is a picture of Rupert Lowe having or dining with Liz Truss in a restaurant, and it's been squashed. But I got a copy and my source is impeccable. So if you go through my timeline on X, you will find this picture of Liz Truss, the sub, with Rupert Lowe. Now, Terry has laid the question at the doorstep of this particular situation. Lowe is the holder of the Truss day collar. You can say that, Terry, but I can't possibly comment. But it's within 24 hours of that picture surfacing and then being squashed. You can't find it anywhere. You won't be able to find it. That this is all kicked off. So, question number one, if Rupert watches this, come on, Rupe, cough. What were you up to with Truss? Is that your day collar that she's wearing? Just asking for a friend. So why would Rupert Lowe have dinner with Liz Truss unless he wanted to do Tory party light? Or he just wanted a bit of extra lettuce for his salad? Or he's thinking of joining UKIP and wants Liz to go with him? Because if any one of the five PT Ham, who's presenting this? There are more important things than, did King Arthur exist? Because what you don't realise is, if this is not sorted out, you've got another 5 years of the Marxist government. You've got another 5 years of being bent over by this Marxist government and being pegged to buggery, pun intended. So whether you think that reform is done, it was just hope. Hope. That's all Reform UK brought. And politics is a dirty game, a really dirty game. Anybody that would want to get involved in politics must be off their chump. Amalia's found the picture, a little blurred, but this is very interesting. Well done, Amalia. And people just want to live in hope, or some kind of hope, and they don't want to get shafted all the time. And, you know, Nige, we thought that he could be the English version, not the British version, the English version of Donald Trump. And we can see what Donald Trump's doing. Bloody hell, Ray. So we've got the English version of Trump, and we were hoping that Nige was going to do the very things that Trump has done to bring this country back to being Great Britain. People are living in hope. We can literally take what this Marxist government, these liars, are saying and doing and perpetrating, and they're on the grift. And oh, by the way, I'm going to give you the answer about what he and WEF and Ursula von der Leyen bitch are up to. I'm going to give you that answer before I finish tonight. I'm going to give you so many different answers, your brain's going to go, brilliant, Adrian. But you know something? We have to tell other people. It's not for me to do. It's for me to research all this stuff and give you the answers. But please tell people. Stuart, I bet Piers Morgan is jealous of Trump and Nigel's friendship. Oh, Mr. Morgan, he's a very troubled soul, especially after putting those pictures, those set-up, made-up pictures of our squaddies in the back of a truck. Remember that? And it was all a lie, Piers? And then he's come out and gone, oh, please forgive me. I have sinned. I have sinned. Not the Jimmy Swaggart kind of sinning, shagging hooers and taking coke. But I have sinned, yeah. All about the jibber jabber. And can I, hang on, Liz is a Leo. Leos can be very naive in external appearance, but can be very, very naughty. Just saw the pic, Rev. Truss has changed. Why does she look so different? Because it's a bit blurry. Can you imagine seeing those two having dinner and you'd be like, oh, quick, get me phone out before I get found out. Now, a lot of people that came to this channel early doors were asking about the jibber jabber. And I had to change the words that we used because at the time it was frowned upon by certain social media platforms. But if you've been reading the newspapers over the last few days, you will find that every single daily is asking the question and giving you the answer, giving a definitive statement that Charlie 19 was created in the Wuhan lab, because everybody's reporting it now. Now, at the time, these ne'er-do-wells that perpetrate themselves as journalists, they were saying, no, 95% effective. And then a couple of days later, 92% effective. And then another week would go by, 85% effective, and we got so far down to about 45% effective, and it's still going down. And now the newspapers are turning tide. They're saying that, evening Paul from Newcastle. So the newspapers are telling you that the Charlie 19, was built and designed and funded by the Americans in the Wuhan lab. Now, that's not what you were being told originally. It's not what you were told at the very early days, it was, you take that bloody jibber jabber, you take that bloody jibber jabber. And now, because there's people keeling over, I've said to you before, on this channel, we don't judge. Because at the time, people were trying to do the right thing for everybody, for their family, for themselves, for their community. They were trying to do the right thing. They weren't given the right information to be able to make an adult decision as to whether they would take it or not. I never did, because I did my research. And I just, Stephen Hall says, and nails this, censorship for 2 years. But why? Yeah, bats and a wet market. My hairy backside, says Paulie Galtieri. So why were they perpetrating this money? Because I've told you before, this is the only game in town. It's about the grift, the political grift. It's not about being right. It's not about looking good. It's technically about the power, but it's about politicians making a shit ton of money out of it. And how do they do that? Because they, well, if you look at the PPE, there's one story in the newspapers today about a couple and a business turning over £1 billion worth of PPE, and it was, most of it was just chucked in the ground because it was shite. You couldn't use it. Des Ashton, wear a mask to show obedience. Correct. Oh no, better than that. Stand on your doorstep, rattling your pots and pans on a Thursday night for the NHS. And it now turns out that the NHS who were using ventilators on certain people with Charlie 19 actually shouldn't have used the ventilators, because it was the ventilators that killed them. And you ask that, you still trust doctors? You still trust the NHS? Oh, yes, yes, give them lots of money. Give them lots of money. It's a fucking private. The only thing you're going to get out of the NHS, told you this for 2 years, A&E at the point of use. Everybody else, you're going to have insurance. They're going to use the American model. Trump's a businessman. He wants the NHS. He wants the contracts. He wants the billions and billions and billions of pounds worth of contracts. But if you can give it to Michelle Mone, where's she gone? Oh, she's in the Mediterranean on her ship. And where's the £200 million worth of PPE that your taxes and my taxes paid for? Oh, I don't know. Well, they've pissed them down the Swanee. Oi, oi, oi. So what exactly are we fighting for? Just, if you have any insight, what exactly are we fighting for? Because I'm telling you this, and I told you this in the last couple of lives. They want to put boots on the ground. Ursula von der Leyen, bitch. And Keir Starmer, as Queer as Folk, Starmer. Because he's a bit odd. I mean, after all those vocal coaching sessions, and he's still like that. All right, I'm going to give you the answer to what's going on in Europe. We'll get to Trump, infidelity. Epstein is appearing again. And, well, the Pope's dead, by the way. I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask you a question to sort of, that will lead on from what we've been discussing. Reform. After seeing what you've seen and after what I've explained to you, that I believe there's a faction in between the Reform Party and somebody is going to... Cuban Pete, you're wrong. Somebody is trying to gain power. Somebody else is trying to keep hold of power. So I'm going to ask you a question. After all this stuff that we've been through over the last couple of years with the Marxists and the Tories, Terry Wookfit, the Pope isn't dead. Old JC said that he who believes in me does not die but lives forever. And those that are shagging kids will go to hell. I'm going to ask you a question. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Agincourt. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Are you thinking that you are now politically homeless? After what's gone on the last couple of days between Nige and Rupat, are you feeling that you are now politically homeless? 1 for yes, 2 for no. All those people that put their hope in reform to get rid of the political classes. Interesting. It is mostly ones, but there's still a few people saying 2. So there's evidently, Angelic Inspiration says 2, Karen says 1. Evidently, people are travelling in hope. Most people, the cynical old tarts like me, good question from the Bad Wolf Project. Is it gaslighting? So 1 for yes, 2 for no. Are you feeling like you're politically homeless at the moment? Jackie says, I wish I could move abroad. Des Ashton says, my Irish Catholic granddad used to sing, Hail, Hail, the Pope's in jail. What the hell do I care? Brilliant. Germanicum. That's a great name. Catwoman Jones. I'm just popping cherries, by the way. If you're a first timer, just let me know in the chat. So we'll talk about Glastonbury and some of the lighter stuff. But I am now going to give you the answer as to what's going on in Europe. It's not difficult to work out. But, knock, knock. Oh, sir. Net who? Ah, well, you see, as soon as they find something else that's going to make them more profit, fuck net zero. David, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Interesting. A lot of people are saying 1. Rich says, I've never in my life been Labour, but I really don't know where I'd put my cross at the moment. I think that's the zeitgeist, Rich. I think a lot of people who are, Kathy Harper saying, I still think there are other parties are worse. We need a change. But as Nige says in his press release, trust is a cornerstone of politics. Are we here, man? When was the last time you trusted a politician to do the very thing that he said, apart from Donald Trump? When was the last time you trusted a political party to actually come up with a manifesto and stick to it? Phil Levan says Adrian needs to lead the revolt. That bloody take me out with an assassin. Des Ashton says we need leadership reform, not a political party. Oh, interesting. Interesting, Des. So let me give you an explanation. Ed Millipede. When was the last time? Burlington Bertie. I've been politically homeless for 25 years. Every party is a carbon copy. It's the political classes that are just hanging on to power. So when was the last time you saw Ed Millipede? You've never seen him in PMQs, because I haven't. I've been looking for him for weeks. I haven't seen him being interviewed anywhere. I haven't seen him popping his head above the parapet. Is that because he knew that net zero was going to be blown off? And have you not noticed that the politicians are now, they're sort of not really talking about net zero, although the usual suspects in the House of Commons or PMQs are still mentioning this 22 billion black hole that doesn't exist, never has existed, and never will exist. So, Ed Millipede, net zero, you know that thing that they were using so that they would bash you over the head, so that they would stick Bovir in cows so they wouldn't fart? Are you still buying the milk that you were buying, or have you changed because it's listed with Bovir and additives to it? So, net zero, it's gone. It is no more. To quote Monty Python, net zero parrot is deceased. But why? War's more profitable. Let me explain. So what is it the EU wants? And remember, they had that meeting last Sunday after Zelensky was told to Foxtrot Oscar by the Donald. And let me tell you, I'll nail my colours firmly to the flag post, and it won't have yellow and it won't have light blue in it. The reason why the Americans got mightily pissed off with little Volodymyr was because he was off his tits on coke. He was coked off his face. And then Charles the Weak hosts him at one of his palaces. What the actual fuck was Charles the Weak doing? He must be off his trolley. He must be... I don't know whether the Queen Consort has gone, oh, Charles, he's just a little man. He's probably on a bad come down. We know how Harry is when he's like this. So why don't we host little Volodymyr? Wef puppet. Wef puppet. David Beckham, King Charles. But David Beckham's got his nose and tongue so far up King Charles's arse, he just wants a knighthood. He's never going to get it. He's never... I keep bees, me. I keep bees. He'd be saying he talks to his plants next. Oh, I've got 500 million. I've got loads, and every fucking day. David Beckham, or that stick-thin thing that he calls his wife, or one of his kids. They're only in the papers because their dad was a beloved hero of our national sport. But let me tell you what Europe is up to. So Zelensky goes and sees the king, and he's up off his tits, and then he's on a come down, and then he's off his tits, and then he's on a come down, and then he's off his tits, and like it's literally day by day by day. He'll say, oh yeah, we want peace, we're looking for peace, while he's off his tits, and then he's on a come down saying, ah, you can, a lot of you, ah, you can, a lot of you. Have you seen the videos of the of these press gangs, for want of a better term, in Ukraine, where I've seen one where a guy, it's in the snow, but a guy's cycling on his bike, and one of these press gangs just appears from nowhere and pushes him off his bike, and then the rest of his mates come over and grab this male, late teens, early 20s, off his bike, hoy him in the back of a van. You're coming to the front with us, mate. Right, have we got a spare rifle for him? Yeah, we've got a spare uniform. What are you? A 12? What are you? Yeah, you'll do. Wear that. We'll give you some military training. And then there's others. I've seen one where there's a guy trying to get out of this van, where all the press gang are trying to get him in the van. He's screaming his head off. I've got kids, man. I've got kids. I've got a wife and I've got kids. Don't care. Don't care. You're coming with us. And they know they're cannon fodder. They know that they're going to be sent to the front. They know that they're going to be killed in weeks. And Sniffy Zelensky off his tits on coke in the White House. That's why they were brassed off with him. They can't say that because there's tons of politicians at recreational gear. They're all on ketamine and they're all on coke. They're all doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. I've seen major politicians in the House of Commons sitting there and chewing their jaws off, grinding their teeth. And you think, why isn't the press going, he's off his tits? So if you look at Zelensky being kicked out of the White House because he was just off his tits, and then on Sunday, there's a meeting in London where Justin Trudeau flies in for, why would a Canadian fly in to this meeting when it's got absolutely naff all to do with him? Why would Ursula von der Leyen bitch, why would she be in this meeting in London when we're not even part of Europe? You know what Two-Tier Kia's done, don't you? And then Two-Tier Kia's chairing it. Hi, Karina Jane. So, net zero, which was going to bankrupt the country, and a little rich boy, cockeyed, said, oh, no, we're going to get rid of that. It's going to cost us far too much. Far too much. So the Tories got rid of it because they knew what was going to happen. And now the Labour Party have ditched net zero. But they're not going to tell you they've ditched net zero. They've just parked it up just in case they need it at some point in the future. Why is that, though? Come on, Adrian, you were going to give us the answer. What's the answer? It's because the EU, Ursula von der Leyen, bitch, the World Economic Forum, Schwab, and the little Marxist, Tuti Ikea, they want to use war as an excuse for more debt. Let me explain. Because they want war. The European political and financial elite know that the war in Ukraine is lost. Definitive statement, as much as they try and tell you otherwise, the war in Ukraine is lost. Full stop. But the European political and financial elite want to use it as an opportunity to reach strategic independence from the United States. I've been telling you for the best part of 2 years, all of this. There's two things that you need to remember when you're watching all the shenanigans amongst the politicians. One, central bank. The Rothschilds are 5 central banks away from a full hand. Hungary, Syria, Venezuela, North Korea, Russia, China. I'm missing one. Iraq. It's only 7. They've already got Syria. Have you seen all these supposed Christians being slaughtered in Syria by the Muslims? That's not being allowed to come out into your mainstream media. No. Dancing on ice is on. I keep telling you, your government loves you. Don't worry, go back to sleep. Britain's got loads of plastic surgery. Will be on the TV soon. Just go to sleep. Your government loves you. But what they're not telling you is the Muslims are killing the Christians in Syria. Slaughtering them. Because they can. So, the thing that I've been telling you is all about energy independence. Energy independence worldwide. Russia absolutely bursting their incontinence pants and laughing at the West because they've got energy independence from the Caspian Sea. And when they wanted to build the pipeline from the Caspian Sea down south to a warm water port in Pakistan with the Americans, there was at conservative estimates, 300 years worth of gas and oil under the Caspian Sea. And the Russians were 50-50 with the Americans. So even if they don't do anything else, they've got the gas and oil out of the Caspian Sea. And if you look at Ukraine, they've got Crimea. And why do they need Crimea? Because the Black Sea has got hundreds of years worth of gas and oil under the Black Sea, which Russia will now take out of the Black Sea without any interference from Bulgaria or Turkey or Romania or Ukraine. It's all for the Russians. It's all about energy independence. If you look at what this idiotic government are turning down, now I'm not suggesting that fracking is the answer, but it certainly is something that we need to look at because they can drill for it offshore. There's 110 billion pounds worth of gas and oil under Leicestershire, under Lincolnshire. And they can get to that offshore. And let me tell you the other thing that I've known since I was a boy in the 70s. Not that old, you're wrong. My dad told me, he said, look, the gas and the oil in the North Sea, they decided that wherever it is brought ashore, it belongs to that country. So I was like, so is it Scottish oil? He said, well, no. Although it comes ashore in Scotland, they're miles out under the North Sea, taking the oil, the gas, the coal. He said, but there's a switch in the pipeline. So if the British government decide that they've had enough of the Scots, and this was not far away, this has been sort of debated in the Commons, they will just, if the Scottish get a bit lippy and they go, it's our oil, they're just going to flick the switch or however they do it in this pipeline, and it will be brought ashore at Hartlepool. Then becomes English. And there's the Scottish economy right up the Swanee, because it'll just come ashore in Hartlepool. Hang monkeys, loads of oil. So that's what this is all about. It's energy independence, worldwide energy independence. America is going to have energy independence. Russia's already got it. Ukraine, they've lost the war. They've lost it. They're just going to send loads of their men as cannon fodder just until peace is peace. And Trump wants these reprobates to agree peace. That's all he's after, just agree peace. Alan says Miliband, Millipede sadly choked on his bacon sarnie. So in order to have the pretext to implement this spending plan, because what they're going to do is they want war, they want more war, and they want more and more and more war, so that the indigenous population, the taxpayers, just pay. And the politicians, as I've always said, they end up grifting. They obviously take millions off the top because we're spending trillions. Nobody notices the millions. You might notice the billions, but they won't notice the millions. And that's why politicians get rich, because they're insider trading. They are skimming off the top with the war effort. So the idea amongst the EU elite is to make sure that the war in Ukraine does not end too quickly. They are the more important words. Does not end too quickly. That way, the conflict can be used to justify artificially injecting much needed money into the moribund EU economies. Germany, stiffing. Germany's done. France, blimey, the dancing man and his husband. And now Starmer, 2-tier free gear queer as folk Starmer. So they're gonna stick all this money. I mean, the billions that they're putting into Ukraine, they're gonna stick all this money into the war effort, into what's going on, into the economies, because war makes people rich. Sorry, wealthy. Wealthy is different to rich. So, as Bloomberg has stated recently, under this plan, EU nations would be exempt from debt and deficit limits when financing military expenditures. This marks a fundamental shift in EU financial policy. As such, exemptions have previously been impossible under EU rules. The reason I'm telling you this is because watch Rachel from accounts and or Starmer say that they're going to stump up even more money, more money for the war effort in Ukraine. We're going to get behind them. That's why they love little Sniffy. That's why Charles the Weak, the royals, the monarchy of any country is always has fingers in pies, hairy or not, or otherwise. They always have fingers in pie to make money, because being a monarch of any hue or country costs a few bob. So the official slogan of "Help Ukraine Defend Itself" will give the EU political and financial elite an excuse to turn on the spigots of the European Central Bank at full thrust again, to shower the entire European economy with free money and shore up its fragile economies like it did after the euro crisis in 2011 with that enormous COVID recovery fund in 2021, as well as with the Green New Deal. And Ed Millipede, off you go, Ed. We've done with you. So in a sense, this would-be debt plan is just the European Union emulating the United States playbook of using war for crony capitalist benefits, finally understanding how to cynically exploit the Ukraine war, just as the US has been doing since 2022 by feeding its military-industrial complex. It will, as always, lead to price inflation and devalue the euro currency. It will inflate bubbles. It will distort EU economies. They'll say that the Germany or France or England, Britain will be doing better than they actually are. It will lead to malinvestments and Last but not least, it will leave small European businesses, the backbone of Europe's economies, hanging out to dry. Now, this is going to take a few years, maybe 2 or 3 maximum. But all you now have to do is just watch what these lying politicians say in the Houses of Parliament at PMQs about Ukraine and the war effort and how much money we're going to spend on it, because they're not going to spend it on net zero. It's done. It's finished. It's over. So this is yet another case which shows that Western publics, not only in Europe but also in the US, need to understand better that money creation, whether through debt or otherwise, and artificially pumping this money into the economy, will not be to their benefit. Mark my words. Wait for Rachel from accounts coming out, because she needs war to prop up the economy. Just wait until two-tier Kia says, I'm going to see me mate Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine, in Kyiv. It's not Kyiv, it's Kiev, as in chicken Kiev. Yeah, go. I am doing research. We'll stop that there, because that might be a bit much for you tonight. But I am doing research on, and I'm calling it, the president who died twice. Do you know that Jimmy Carter died twice? You know where? You weren't paying attention. Have you been paying attention with Lily Phillips? I mean, this turned my stomach, although the old boys in the nursing homes, bless them. I mean, I'm surprised they're not being taken out with heart attacks. But she's 23-year-old Lily Phillips, this OnlyFans model. It's not modelling, it's just being, a dirty tart, in my view. She's now sleeping with the elderly boys in nursing homes for her latest stunt. The old boys. Honestly, it would take a surgeon to wipe... Yeah, I know she's up the duff, Alan, but it would take a surgeon to take the smile off the faces of these old boys. Can you imagine being in your 80s or 90s and stiff again? So that's what she's up to. Just thought I'd tell you. Just keep an eye on it. She might be a preggers. She might be... Well, she's just... rancid, as far as I'm concerned. Are you aware of this knifeman that tried to ram an army barracks today, just a couple of hours ago? A man was waving a knife and shouting at security guards whilst talking about bombs. It was at a disused St. Omer army barracks in Aldershot. And the government saying, it's not terrorism. No. A bit like Southport. Wasn't terrorism. But he was up on 2 terrorist charges. I mean, make your mind up, lads. In fact, so a guy drives his car, tries to get into a disused barracks in Aldershot, waving a knife around, shouting whatever he was shouting. It's not terrorist related, talking about bombs. But if somebody had posted a meme on Facebook, you'd get more jail time than him. I want to talk about infidelity. I hope you are being facetious, Terry. Getting done for criminal damage to his own car. Have you seen these idiots that have done Donald Trump's, is it Turnberry? His golf course. They've dug up some of the greens. They've had a go at the course itself, and they've daubed red paint all over the clubhouse. That is criminal damage. I wonder what Police Scotland are going to do about that. Evening all. I want to talk about infidelity. Why do I want to talk about infidelity? I want to ask you a question, and it's more than a 1 for yes and 2 for no. It's what constitutes infidelity. And I'm going to use this, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, quick. My missus is going, shit, man. So this Maura Higgins and young Danny Jones. Danny Jones won the I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. But he was in the jungle with Maura. She's, a reality TV star. In my house, she'd be called a slut. So she's a dirty tart. And I can justify what I'm saying by asking you this. What constitutes infidelity? What would you consider cheating? Now, his wife of 11 years, an ex-Miss England, there's a video of him with his tongue so far down Mara Higgins' throat, he's having her breakfast for seconds. And my take on that is, that's not the first time he's done that, in my view, because it was just, she didn't back away and was happy to suck on his tongue, and young Danny. So there's two moving parts to this. One, he's a married man, so deserves everything that he gets. The missus is like, no, I'm not having this. Turns out that the son also had a second video. So I had the video of the tonsil hockey, and then had a second video where he was partying with young Maura, a dirty tart, in Nobu. I think it's a hotel or a club or something in London. He's a married man, should have known better. Sisters are doing it for themselves. I thought the sisterhood wouldn't betray the sisterhood. But Maura Higgins doesn't give a flying about another woman. The man she's coquettishly getting involved with. And I don't think it's for the first time. I think it's just when it's been found out. She didn't care about the wife. It's all over the place now. Women literally don't. If they've got a kind of a high value man, well, he can't be a high value man if he's going to be shagging around behind his wife's back. And I wonder if he would have told the wife about this if he hadn't been found out by the son. Higgins was bumping uglies with Pete Wicks. Interesting fact that Maura keeps birds. She's had a cockatoo. And dogs. She's got a cocker spaniel. Amalia says, isn't that the Maura that's meant to be going out with that Pete bloke? No, they're split up, I think. Terry Wookfit says, it's always been like that. Mistresses don't care about the man's wife and family. I know it's one of the oldest stories in the history of mankind. I know that royals, they like to have the wife for knocking the kids out, and then they have a mistress to have the fun with. So I'm going to ask you a question. What constitutes infidelity? At which point would you say that's unacceptable? Is it the kissing? Terry, I agree with you. Though some royals prefer young boys. Many of them. And pegging. So what constitutes infidelity in your eyes? Derek Tomlinson, that's a great take. Anything that betrays your partner. So is it the texting? Because now we have a different way of communicating. Is it the texting? Middle of the night, away from your partner, hiding your phone? Is it the kissing? Would you say that he was cheating on his wife when he was kissing the face off that Maura Higgins? I mean, see, I look at all the stuff that goes on around, and I think, I feel like an alien. I feel like a man from a different time. I feel like someone who, I put integrity above all else. So I've never been married, I've never been engaged until now. What would I constitute as a married man? What would I constitute as infidelity, as cheating? And Derek Tomlinson's hit the nail on the head. Flirting, online dating, even if you don't do it physically. It's when you start lying. It's when you, I asked a friend this earlier today, and they said, even thinking about it, that's very powerful. Vic's text says, integrity never goes out of style. Infidelity, if you can't do it in front of your wife, you shouldn't be doing it. Different things for different people. But it's the heartbreak. It's the wife being presented with this, he's had his tongue halfway down her throat. And she's had her tongue halfway down his. And I don't believe that this is, you don't make that mistake of kissing somebody's face off randomly because you have to have permission. But what constitutes infidelity? What constitutes cheating? Is it thinking about it? Is it the texting? Is it being duplicitous behind your partner's back, male or female? What constitutes infidelity? In the field says anything you can't share with your partner. Andrew James says, I tell my wife everything, even if a woman smiles at me at a gig or when dancing with someone. Stuart says, thinking about it. Brilliant, Kaz. Alan, who the hell are we to judge? Are we all so perfect? Yeah? I'll never be unfaithful to my wife. Never. In thought, word, or deed. And I'll be really straight with you. Look, I've had my dances, but I made sure that wanderlust was out of my system when I got married. Because there's nothing worse. I've seen heartbreak and I've seen relationships break down because I'll give you an example. A friend of mine rings me up and goes, can I see you down the pub? So I was like, yeah, okay. 20 minutes? Brilliant. Knew what was coming. He said, oh, fucking hell. He said, I've been shagging this girl. And I'm going to change some of the details. Thank you, Alan. And he said, look, it's been, I've had a whale of a time. It's Olympic standard sex, blah, 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 blah. All the lads are patting me on the back saying, brilliant, brilliant, good on you. She's a looker, brilliant. He said, what do you think I should do? I said, get your pecker back in your pants and get back to your wife and kids. And he said, why? I said, because you're fucking married, you moron. But all the lads are saying it's brilliant. She's a lookout, it's brilliant. It's fat. I said, look, when your wife finds out, it's going to break her heart. When your kids find out, it could ruin their lives. And you're Johnny Big Bollocks because you're getting your cock sucked by somebody else. Get back to your wife and kids and stop being an idiot. Anyway, I'm finished my beer. I'll see you later. So left it. And there was all kinds of stuff that went on in the background. He left, he lied, he made stories up. But in the end, he told the wife. Absolutely broke her. Told the kids. I'm very surprised that they came out of that with any semblance of maturity and understanding. I mean, it was just awful for the wife and the kids. And he came back to me because he took ages and he made his decision. And his decision was to stay with his wife and his kids and not to go off with this other woman. And he came back to me and he said, do you know something? He said, if we hadn't had that conversation, he said, I would have left my wife and kids. I was planning on it. I'd worked the plan out, worked out what I was going to do. He said, but you telling me to go back home made me change my mind. I said, well, I didn't do anything. You changed your mind, if changing your mind was meant to be. But I can't in all good conscience. I'm very lucky. Personally, I'm very lucky. Very, very lucky. I've been able to do whatever I've been able to do, whenever I've been able to do it, with no repercussions, with nothing. Because I was a single guy. But now, I'm a married man. But what constitutes infidelity. For me, I mean, you can't say that somebody's being unfaithful if they're thinking about it, but it depends if it affects your relationship and in what way it affects your relationship. Everybody's been, wow, in the field. My mother was a mistress for 40 years. As a 14-year-old, we all went off for dinner at the bloke's family home with his family. Taught me to never cheat, so there was a plus, I guess. Wow, in the field. But it's, I think if we all ask ourselves these questions, for me, it's the deceit. It's the lies and the deceit. But how can you be lying and deceitful when the newspapers have got you plastered all over it and in video on their websites, kissing the face off this grubby little minx? Well, Terry has a very good point. Don't forget, some people allow it, swingers and stuff, but that's not infidelity. If your partner is aware and consents, then that's not infidelity. Karen Boo, very good point. I look at it this way. It's okay to window shop. Soul Rebel, very good point. Trust, trust, trust. Because a lot of people just have this innate sense. They just know. I mean, I've seen things in my dreams. I've told these stories before. I won't go into it again tonight because we've got too much to talk about. But it's just a feeling. And then when you walk away from them, they go, no, 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 no. Which bit of, fuck off, you dirty slut, don't you understand? So you decided that it would be really funny to go off and do some stuff. And then it's only when you get found out do you confess. But ultimately in life, what's the old saying? The way you find them is the way you leave them, or something like that. There is an old saying. Terry Wookfit says, I had what's called a kitchen pass, but only for one woman, Kylie Minogue. Gosh, she's tiny. I've seen those hot pants. I wanted to kiss them, but they were in a glass box, Terry. Got to cash it in one day. She... Staff at Two Swords, weren't too impressed though. Yeah. So it's interesting that, and again, I think it's possibly a generational thing. We're slightly older, we've lived a bit of life, we've possibly had a broken heart, we understand what relationships can and can't do to us, so we make decisions based on that. Let's get to one of the bigger stories of the day. Has this moron been brought down from the Elizabeth Tower in the Palace of Westminster? Because I want to make a few points around this. So the guy protesting about Gaza on the Elizabeth Tower, and the mainstream media are calling it Big Ben. It's not to be a pedant, but it's the Elizabeth Tower. It has been named the Elizabeth Tower, but Elizabeth Tower is too big to get onto the headlines. Herding cats, interesting. Humans are not designed to be monogamous. Simple. Stuart, I know he's on his bare feet, but I can't. What I don't understand is so when did he come down? It was at the Bovril saying it. When did he come down? Because how did he get over the security fencing around the Palace of Westminster? And having been to Parliament and to the Palace of Westminster and Westminster Hall, it is dripping with armed response cops everywhere because they've had people stabbed to death. They've had armed response cops They were just murdered. They were murdered by terrorists doing their job. So I don't understand how he's climbed up the Elizabeth Tower when there's armed response cops there. Maybe they were told not to shoot. Maybe they were told not to respond because it would damage the Elizabeth Tower. But what is proportionate and appropriate? That would be their two guiding principles. But somebody's going to get an arse whipping today, because with the debrief, it'll be, right, how did he get halfway up the Elizabeth Tower? Now, having been to the very top, I feel sorry for those people who were visiting the Houses of Parliament, were visiting the Elizabeth Tower, wanted to go up to Big Ben. You are allowed up into the belfry, and you are allowed to stand next to Big Ben when it chimes. And I stood up there when it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Oi, 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 that is some experience. But the question is, how did he get past the security? Somebody's going to get an arse kicking. How did he get over the security fences? I know he didn't have any socks and shoes on. How's that? So the armed response cops would have been policing the perimeter. But how can you, you come out of Westminster Tube and you literally, it's that well-known picture where you literally see the Elizabeth Tower just right there in front of you. How did he get over the fence? And as somebody said earlier, what if he'd had a bomb? But if he's down, he's obviously being cold. Super Ted, Big Ben was made in Stockton. The original Big Ben was made in Stockton, and then they found it had a crack in it, and they had to have another one done elsewhere. So when I said it was the foundry in Stockton, they told all this, that the original Big Ben, the original bell, and they do say that bells ward off evil. That's why you have bells in churches. Interesting. Terry Wookford said 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, low security as Parliament wasn't sitting on a Saturday. Slaggers. Let me, I think it was Cuban Pete much earlier in this live, was talking about not my king. And I do believe that King Charles is really out of touch with the people. Now, look, Queen Elizabeth II wasn't perfect, especially when Diana was murdered. You had a monarch that didn't understand what the people needed. I was working for the fired organisation. I can tell you that the people that I saw literally sobbing their hearts out in a queue at Harrods, because we were on the Brompton Road, just because they wanted to sign the Book of Condolence for Diana. And the Queen, the monarch, was up at Balmoral, didn't understand what was going on. She knew that Diana was dead, murdered in my view. But now we have another monarch that literally is completely out of touch with the people of this island. We are looking to our leaders. He's our pastoral leader. He's our spiritual leader. And if he's the defender of the faiths, what about us? Some people say he has no fucking clue. I was looking at I've got thousands of newspapers, and I was looking at the royal stack, if you will, and it's the same stories all the time. It's Meghan, it's Harry. Are they going to divorce? Does she? Are the kids from a surrogate? It's all that around the Montecito pair, and then it's, well, Charles has he's got cancer, has cancer, could be dying from cancer, and then it's Camilla. Oh, she's so stoic, and she's the Bad Wolf Project. Charles is impartial as LBC, and you've got the same stories being promulgated by the mainstream media. So Charles's stories, Charles's PR is, I'm a cancer survivor. But how long for? Prostate cancer, it's not a good one to have. But he's got the best medical care, he's got the best medical attention, but it's always the same story. You watch the stories that come out about the royals, it's always the same stories. And unless you're Volodymyr Zelensky, of course, and you just pop round to see your mate Charlie, and it's because, well, he's a weft puppet. One or both. So while society evolves, we've moved on from Downton Abbey. We've moved on from wearing dinner jacket and bow ties, or black jacket, a black tie to go for dinner every day. And we've moved on. I mean, a lot of people are lucky if they have a one-course dinner, let alone 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, and different wines. So while society evolves, 2025, we move on, but we still need help with our struggles. We still need help with our pastoral care, if you will, our spiritual leadership. So if he's the head of the Church of England, then be the head of Church of England. Don't then be, say, defender of all the faiths and have... Can I be really honest with you? I understand the heritage that goes with Windsor Castle. You know I'm a fan of the Templars and the Crusaders. And the timing of the building of Windsor Castle by William the Conqueror, the evolution of Windsor Castle through the 300 years of the Crusaders and the Templars, and Richard the Lionheart. Having something denigrate our history disgusts me. I have no problem with people wanting to integrate within our country and our customs and our land. Don't have any challenge to that at all. But the optics of what was going on in the Middle East between our knights, the French knights, the English knights, and what was going on with Saladin and the amount of blood and loss there was on both sides. It smacks of naivety. It smacks of bragging rights. Forever and a day they can say, we sang prayers in Windsor Castle. And there are many, many, many great buildings in this country that should be sacred. Sacred. But Charles? Oh, you know, our diversity is our strength. Will you actually, golf mate? It's not. Community is our strength. I don't understand why. It's almost as if he's getting a WEF script given to him. Who's telling him what to do? Saudis? Rothschilds? WEF? He's one of the oldest bloodlines in the world, in humankind's history. So I don't... It left a really sick feeling at the pit of my stomach. Not because I'm anti this or anti that or anti something else, or I only believe in one religion. I don't believe in any religions, because religion is merely a controlling tool, a tool for controlling, mind you. As we all always find out from our Prime Minister, his dad was a toolmaker. Oh, thank God he's gone. Justin Trudeau delivers his farewell speech. Mate, Off you go. We've had enough. And the Canadians have had enough more than us. So what was he doing at the business end of a meeting a week ago? But he's gone. Took his time. Do you know that Windsor Castle has been the home of 40 monarchs? 40. Originally built by William the Conqueror in 1070. Order of the Garter there was installed in 1348. So it is a sacred place. And if you look at the royals, a lot of them get married there. Well, if you're Harry and Meghan. We have our Queen and other notable royals buried there. So, Bad Wolf Project. Mark Carney is the front runner to be the next PM of Canada. Heaven help them. Today, while I was walking around, it's been beautiful. I must admit, this last 7 days or so, it's been beautiful. Sunshine. It's just been crisp. Not necessarily winter's day, but it just felt like things were turning a corner. It was just, winter wasn't great. It wasn't a nightmare, but it just wasn't great. And now we're heading towards March 30th, Mother's Day, but March 30th, the night of, or first thing in the morning of Sunday the 30th, the clocks move forward by an hour. So spring forward, March 30th. So within a couple of weeks, we're going to have, when I start these lives at 8 o'clock, it's going to be daylight. We have Mother's Day. The daffs are up. It just feels like things are changing for the better. And then I looked up in the sky and I saw these bloody chemtrails. And I thought, oh, here we go. So the next 7 days, it's just going to be grey and overcast. The temperatures are going to drop. So it's going to be very cold at night. It's going to be cold during the day. And it's almost as if somebody's saying, oh, well, they've had 5 days of sunshine. Right, well, stop that. Can't have them enjoying anything. Beautifully sunny for a week. Tons of chemtrails today in the bright sunshine. I just watched the planes flying and crisscrossing across the sky. Forecast, no sun, freezing nights, back to winter for a week. And then I thought, because you know me, I'm a cynical old tart. Is this about just stopping us from growing our own food? Because of the ground drying out and we're getting into the back garden or into the allotments just to get things planted out, some seeds. Is this their way of stopping us growing our own food? Because I know last year, loads of people were complaining they couldn't get anything away. Simply because it was chucking it down all the time. If you want some official figures for Ukraine, I was talking about these press gangs. Do you know that there's been between 80,000 and 100,000 deserters from the Ukraine army? They've had enough. They're literally just legging it. Because they know they're going to die. They know they're in the meat grinder. They know it's just a matter of time they're going to lose their life. And some of them, as I said earlier, have got wives and kids. But some videos are coming out of the Ukrainians, some beatings and murders within the Ukrainian army. So it's not all sweetness and light. And I understand that they're at war of sorts. But Ukraine wants peace. Russia wants peace. America wants peace. Why are they still at war? Why? And I don't know about you, but all these intellectual pygmies on my social media feeds that are, I stand with Ukraine, brilliant, because there is actually a space within the Ukrainian army for anybody that stands with Ukraine to go and fight for Ukraine. So all of a sudden, they've stopped saying, oh, I stand with Ukraine. I bet you bloody don't. As soon as you find out that you've got to go fight in a war, out of the way and shite, man. And I did question these videos that I've seen of the Ukrainians press ganging, literally just turning up on a street corner, pushing a guy off his bike, hoying him in the back of the van, and away they went to the war. And I did think, well, it's not necessarily Zelensky. Oh, Zelensky is overseeing all of this. Remember that morale high in the first few months. The Ukrainians, under the Office of National Statistics, in this country, we have given free visas to 217 Ukrainians. Now, I get there'll be women, children in amongst that number, but if they want more people to fight in their army, get some of the 217,000 Ukrainians in this country, get them shipped back to Ukraine. And do you know all these dinghy divers that are coming across from France over to here? If they've managed to travel thousands and thousands of miles, put them on a plane, fly them over to Ukraine and go, you can help the world by fighting in this war. So we have 217,000 people in Great Britain who've been given special visas to avoid the war, to bring them to safety. But what is not being acknowledged is there's a whole generation of young men being slaughtered and killed so that Ukraine cannot rebuild itself once the war is over because they've got no men to start impregnating their women. I want you to keep an eye on something. Are you aware of what's going on in Romania? Now, it's important considering that Europe wants to go to war and Europe wants to make more money out of war than net zero. So gone are the blades, the wind farms. They are literally just turning on a sixpence and going, oh, we can make more money from war. Yeah, let's have some war in Europe. But Romania, are you aware that the powers, the puppet masters in the shadows, have banned Calin Georgescu from running for president? Now, Calin Georgescu won the first round of elections before. Did you hear the story about Romania elected this Calin Georgescu, and then there was a private jet left America and flew to Romania, and when it got to Romania said, no mate, you can't have that, no, stop buggering about, you're not going to win. So Calin Georgescu won the first round of elections before they, the puppet masters, those that don't want him to win, overturned it. And now he's leading the polls again. It's a bit like Trump and lawfare and what they were doing in America. If they don't want you, they'll try every which way to stop you. So now the puppet masters, the George Soroses of the world, they've simply banned him from standing. They're interfering with all this stuff. And this is happening in a European country. NATO, anyone? And there's a rumor coming out of America, I'm going to round off with this in a moment, that Trump is going to suspend elections and run for a third time in 2028. I mean, it's the Democrats' worst nightmare. They just don't want it to happen. But Trump's 78, 79? I think it's getting to be too old for him. And do you know when I said I'm going to round off? I did that on purpose just to see how many people would stay, because I've kept the gold till the end. So thank you to everyone for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all your indulgence, because by indulging me, I'm going to give you something that might make your hair curl. So have a guess what a little birdie told me. The real Epstein files, you know, they've been published and they've been redacted. The real Epstein files have over 12,000 pages. Plus audio, plus video, and the forensic data isn't lost. All of that, the 12,000 pages, the audio, the video, the forensic data, are locked in a secure vault beneath the Jacob K. Javits Federal Building in Manhattan. It's controlled by, for want of a better term, a black hats faction within the FBI's New York field office. So the unedited surveillance from Epstein's Palm Beach mansion, Little St. James, and Zorro Ranch, capturing 47 high-profile figures in compromising acts with minors, between 1998 and 2019. Over 20 years worth of information. The wiretapped calls from 2004 to 2017 linking Epstein to a Rothschild-funded trafficking hub in Zurich. Oh, I say. Vixtech says, I don't trust Bondi, she's stalling. They know what's in there. But again, I have to say that they know there are certain assets that they can use, and it suits them that those assets are not revealed, because they can still, those Manchurian candidates, whether it's European politics or whether it's American politics, Nicholas says, I know lads, ex-engineers earning $1,000 a day in the war zone. They live with the BBC in best hotels, nice breakfast. Brilliant. That's life-changing money. So here's the kicker. A ledger detailing $83 million in payments to silence victims, signed off by a sitting US senator in 2016. It's all there, ready, waiting. But will they publish any of it, which could compromise their assets? I did tell you, in December, Epstein was going to make an appearance. But you didn't hear any of that from me, Your Honour. Right, I think we'll, as Des Ashton says, there are no pockets in shrouds. Stephen Hall says it's all coming out, or is it? If they're going to compromise an asset, and look, it's as I keep saying to you, the powerful, you have to have something on them to make them do your bidding. You have to have something on them that makes them do what they are told. So when you tell them jump, they say how high. Rich says it's been debunked. Not yet, it hasn't. Yeah, the folder that they released, redacted, has. But there's a load of stuff that they have in very safe places. So let's call it a night tonight. Next live is going to be Wednesday, of course, at 8 o'clock. Thank you to everyone that stayed with the live this evening. Thank you, Amalia. Thank you, Theo Bovril. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you to everyone else that stayed with it. Oh, thank you, Terry. Rich was talking about a different subject. Okay. Be well, stay safe, stay healthy if you can. And the next live will be Wednesday. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions. Please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, because it just disappears and I've no idea why. And just keep your eyes and ears peeled, because there's lots going on and we just have to pay attention. There's a lot of people asleep. It's not for us to wake them up anymore. We just have to make sure that we stick together so we know what's going on. My name's Adrian Allen, and this is the Theatre of the Mind. Thank you. Take your altar wine with you. Yeah, wrong. But whatever you do, don't forget the Battenberg. And remember, the Theatre of the Mind is more than just the headlines. See you Wednesday, 8 o'clock, if not before.